Are you looking for the deeper Week 4 NFL player prop bets to make? Then hang out and let's get defensive about it. Welcome, everyone, to the first IDP Plus Bets Sack Props for defensive players. My favorite. I love the big men coming off the edges, and this is kind of like what I like to focus on. So, without further ado, we're not going to beat around the bush about it. Have a weekly article. Hit most of my bets last week, the majority. So, most of those bets are all plus money, just like these. But let's see about a parlay. Let's go with the first guy, Montez Sweet, over a quarter of a sack versus basically Matthew Stafford, who's been sacked in total 10 times so far. 2 week 1, 5 in week 2, 3 in week 2. So it's kind of inevitable. They don't allow a huge amount of production overall off the edge, but they do allow the sack. So we're going to go ahead and check that out. They did stifle Nick Bosa, and only Alden Hutchison owns one of those 10 sacks. So Montez Sweet, he's a proven veteran. I mean, over the years, he's been a well-graded guy. So he's just kind of struggling at the moment. Might have been the matchups, but I think he gets back on track, and especially in Chicago. So with that being said, focusing more on Stafford and the tendencies of the sacks coming. And Montez Sweet just being a veteran. I was actually kind of surprised that it was at plus 105 at the time, but believe it or not, all of these bets, except for one we're going to talk to in a little bit, that he went MIA, all these bets have actually gone up. I think Sweet is at plus 110 now. All right, so now these could be all put into a parlay pick, except for probably the Montez Sweet and his partner here. But this is a guy I really like. He's came on this year. He's a second year interior defensive lineman for Chicago, and it's Gervon Dexter, over a quarter of a sack at plus 110. I believe I was up to 120 when I went to record this. He's basically just overachieved for the first few games from the aspect that nobody's seen this coming. All right, he's like a second round, third round guy. Second year, and just this is out of the blue. So I believe Vegas may actually be catching up a little bit, though, because we hit with him, I believe, maybe around week 2, possibly, and 2 or 3. But either way, his number is down at plus 110, and then I think it's at 120, as I mentioned. That's still, I think he would be up there like 145, 150 the last time we used him, and it's just Vegas and bettors catching on. Maybe he's definitely making a name for himself, and he has every advantage too. That interior, the overall production across the line may not be like top 10. I believe it was right outside, but it's even across the board, and the sacks doesn't matter. As I mentioned, Hutchison's only notable name out of those 10 sacks in the first 3 contests that we can even talk about. So I like both Dexter and both Sweet getting over a quarter of a sack. If that number hasn't changed, a half sack, they just got to get their hand on it. All right, so now we're going to go over to this guy who's just broke out. I mean, in the process of breaking out, I don't think you could say that, because he's actually got 3 to 4 weeks coming into this. So he's got 17 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, and an astonishing 4 QB hits and 3 sacks to go with that. This dude is just tearing it up. So he stepped right in there with Matthew Judon moving on, and he's continued to produce the sacks from the only guy pretty much producing the sacks by role within that Patriots defense. I'm actually loving this because Brock Purdy has his own tendencies. It's like he can't avoid a sack to save his life sometimes, or he likes to run towards them. So even though the 49ers do have a formidable offensive line, they are another team that they may not allow a huge amount of production off the edge. but it's enough to put him in the top 12 overall. So with Birdie being sacked, I believe it's 9 times so far this season, I have no trouble thinking that Keion White's going to be able to get into that backfield, or Brock Birdie's going to run into Keion White's arms and give him a big bear hug at over a quarter of a sack. And I believe that one went up too, believe it or not, which is kind of astonishing considering that White should be pretty well known by now across the board. But anyhow, this dude is next. When I made these on Friday, he was actually listed. I have a picture in the article, as you can see, which I have each week come out. And this podcast will be earlier in the week going forward, but I just wanted to get this out this week. Me and my buddy Johnny the Greek on the money line, we kind of decided that we was going to break up the portions of the show and give you guys a better, faster delivery on what we could actually know without having the other guy kind of, yeah, right. You know what I mean? So anyways, hopefully you're checking out the money line. Johnny got her done real quick and just straight to the point. He's got those great bets, and I think he's still hitting that 80% winning percentage rate. So jump on that. Anyways, this Tillman dude, I took this or looked at this bet at noon on Friday or so, and even had put it into my my draft, my picks, my bets. Didn't make them at that point, but then went in and finished this article about 3 hours later, something like that. I come and the bet's gone. So that's not unusual for DraftKings to take bets down, but they usually always come back. This guy has not came back as of this morning since Friday. So the lucky thing is like, I don't know. I guess it was, well, you can see why I took it at plus 450. To give you a gist about this guy, he came from the UFL, the USFL. He's got a starting experience, or he's got a starting opportunity because Baron Browning went down last week or the week before. So he actually played like 50% of the snaps last week, and he tore him up. He made a huge impression. And I mean, for the guy to travel through those smaller leagues or minor leagues to come up into the NFL and make an impression, it's just kind of ironic. Alex Singletary's there too, because he did the same process. He just came from Philadelphia. Anyhow, it doesn't matter. His bet went near, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to keep checking it. And if he pops up, I'm throwing $10 on that times plus 450. I imagine if they bring it back, I would think it would go lower, but hell, I've been wrong about them lowering these things for the last, even in my article, I left, it says it in there. I figured the numbers would be down. So, but my pivot, even mentioned before all of that happened with that article publishing, was his teammate, Jonathan Cooper, which is actually their number one pass rusher. It's like nobody wants to admit it. But Jonathan Cooper, he really came on last year. He ended up with 8 or 9 sacks, I believe, and he really did a lot of production. Had other types of production too. He's not a elite player, but on average, he's well above par. So I mean, he's a steady Eddie too. So that's the nice thing about it. And let's see, the concept of both of this in these matchups. It really banks on Rodgers. Okay, so overall, again, another team that on paper the Jets don't allow a huge amount of production off the edge, but I mean, you look at that running game. See what they've done with Breece Hall, what they have in Breece Hall, what Breece Hall creates. But I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers has been sacked on average over a sack and a half each contest. The guy is just not the Aaron Rodgers we used to know. He's not mobile. He's coming off this injury, so he's liable to not to be able to escape sacks. Does that make sense? Where, now our pivot is Jonathan Cooper, which I got a bet on him for plus 140. I thought that would slide. I actually did see it slide early this morning or late last night at plus 135, I believe it was. Now the thing's up to 145, if I remember right before I got on here. So anyways, I still love Jonathan Cooper. He's another dude. We've used him before prior weeks on the money line, and he hit for us. And I am not scared to sit here and think that he's going to take advantage of this situation with Aaron Rodgers. And if I do remember right, the game's in Denver. No, No, either way, I still like Jonathan Cooper. He's good on the road. He's a consistent player. And, I mean, he's certainly seeing the max amount of snaps that they can afford to give him with the injuries of Alex Singletary and Baron Browning and such. So that is my parlay picks individually put together by three, two picks at the same time. But I hope you win. I hope you win the big money with me. And, to tell you the truth, I'm just going to get out of here and let you guys enjoy the NFL games this Sunday and make some money.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.